Hi, Terry.
Good morning. It's morning here
Hi.
in the US.
Afternoon here. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for speaking to me today. So, we're going to start by talking about the book, which I very,
Yes.
very much enjoyed reading. Thank you. So, we often think that empathy and being an ally is enough, but the reality is that we need practical action to combat structural racism. So, what is radical empathy and how can it transform society for the better?
Well, I chose the term radical empathy because I realized, I'm a pretty empathic person. I could find it relatively easy to put myself in other people's shoes and understand their perspective. But, I know a lot of people like that. And yet, if you look around our society, and this is not just true of the US, but even in Europe, our structural racism hasn't changed. And so it's like we've made some progress, especially since the 1960s, but there's still these, if you look at, I put a lot of numbers and data in the book because it's important to understand that structural racism is persistent and it's not going to change unless every single individual says we need to change. Um, and so I tell my story because I think it's important for people to understand my path, but it was also important for me to understand my own bias. And by understanding my bias, I could then see how I was actually helping to perpetuate structural racism myself and, my family and so on. And so I realized that I needed to create change. And, the steps are, basically, to be vulnerable, to try to understand the your own story. And so I really encourage people to take some time to understand your own life story and where you live, and then to really try to understand others and not just understand them, but take action that can create change. And that means practicing empathy and, actually calling for change, understanding what kind of change needs to happen. And that's what the book is all about, really, because we aren't going to really get to where we need to be as a society if we don't change.